Welcome to the Impact Business Show. I'm your host, Annalise Warren, a marketing agency CEO, business strategist, digital marketing mentor, wife, and mama of 4 little ones. Stay tuned for conversations with successful, purpose-driven business leaders, as well as practical marketing strategies that you can action right away. We are here to help you master your marketing, build your business, and change the world. So let's get into it. Today on the podcast, I'm interviewing Davina Borrow-Jones. She is the founder and solicitor director at the Mompreneur Lawyer, and she helps mum startups protect their businesses from legal risk with personalized online legal packages. Davina believes in empowering and educating women with compassion, and she does that by collaborating with mompreneurs and helps them to take a proactive approach to legal issues. Her business offers an online, flexible, fixed cost approach to legals so that mums can have appointments in their pajamas without the kids, with the kids around, and they have the ability to budget properly. She uses the latest legal tech and she's constantly looking to the future. The Mompreneur Lawyer enables mums to focus their energy on building great businesses and becoming great leaders with the confidence that they deserve. So Davina's business, she helps assist small businesses with structuring, e-commerce, trademarking, intellectual property, protection and privacy issues. And she offers some great value, customized and tailored legal packages for online stores and virtual assistants, coaches, consultants, digital marketers, with website terms and conditions and all of that stuff that we really, really need. And as one of Davina's clients, I can personally testify to how easy she makes this process that to me was so totally overwhelming. To me, this went really into the bucket of with legal and finance. So I need a dream team in those areas. So I'm really excited to have interview Davina again and to dive into different areas this time. Thank you, Davina, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Annalise.
I'm really, really excited to have you here today because I think we're going to, this is something that we need to keep coming back to, and we need to remember when it's all too easy to just keep going with the day-to-day. And I'm really excited today to dig into your expertise, not only as a lawyer, but also as a mompreneur yourself. That was kind of, the professional side. Could you just introduce yourself to the listeners, to the viewers, from a bit more of a personal perspective, and let us know what you're doing at the moment, what you're excited about.
Oh, so okay. So personally, I am a mum of one very lively 3-year-old boy, and he's my world, like many mums. But obviously, my business is my world too. So it's the business mum juggle. But I have passions outside of business as well. I love to surf. I am not a great surfer, but I love to surf. That I love music, and I love to play the piano. I have many outside interests: yoga, climbing. And most recently entrepreneurship, I guess, and the creative side that comes with that. And of course, for over 20 years, the interest in the law.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yay. I love it. What are you working on at the moment, Davina? What are you excited about on your entrepreneurial journey?
So there's a couple of things going on this year. I recently launched a new website, which is attracting a lot of attention, which is really nice. It's a bit of a refreshed look for us, and I was also lucky enough to be the co-author in a book called Back Yourself. Now, it's edited by Peace Mitchell and Katie Garner, and was released very early this year. And it's actually going to the Oscars, so that's really exciting. That's what's happening in April. So by the time your listeners and viewers see this, it may have already been to the Oscars. So that was pretty exciting to be a co-author. Cool. Yeah. And the book is, it's basically inspiration for women to start businesses, or women who have businesses, you know, to give you a little bit of uplifting sort of feedback from other women who have trodden the same or similar path, and real practical tips as well. I think it's a fabulous collaboration between, there's 27 different authors, so you get a lot of different perspectives and can kind of open the book at any point and dive into some really neat tips and inspiration for you.
So amazing, getting that really varied, broad perspective from all angles.
I think so, yeah. There's some of us that sort of are lawyers or accountants, some that are health professionals, some, you know, deeply into e-commerce, and some that have, you know, only had a business for a few years, some that have had businesses, multiple businesses for over 20 years. So there's a lot of diverse perspectives from there, in there, and I think it's a really good read. I enjoyed reading it, so and I'm very particular about what I like to read, so there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I love that peek behind the curtain. I guess that's why I do this, why I have the podcast, because I very selfishly get to interview so many people from so many different walks of life and get perspectives, because we are going to align with certain things more than others, of course. So yeah, I love the concept. So tell me a bit about what your contribution to the book was about.
Okay, so my chapter is entitled Time Well Spent, and the reason I chose that name was actually because it's a movement that was begun by an ex-Google employee called Tristan Harris. Now, Tristan was quite concerned about the effect that the kind of notifications that were coming up on email, you know, the incessant notifications that we often get, either from socials or from emails, and what they were doing to, you know, our lives, our brains, and everything sort of following on from that. So I think every time we get a notification, we get a bit of a hit of dopamine, and then it sort of encourages us to do it again, to get more notifications, and it's obviously become quite concerning for our mental health. I actually noticed that way back in 2005 when I was working at a US law firm, but I was working in the UK for a US law firm, and they gave me a BlackBerry, and I thought this was awesome. It was just like, this is so cool. But what ended up happening was that I was working sort of London hours and also US hours, which meant I was working quite a long day, sort of from 9 in the morning, 8 or 9 in the morning to 10 or 11 at night. And because I had the BlackBerry, I was expected to respond to emails when they came in. So yeah, I really, in hindsight, I realize how that can really affect our mental health, and how we have to be very aware of the kind of information we're reading and consuming, and the way we let socials or emails almost invade our life in a way. Yeah, if you can put it that way. So that's why I called it time well spent, because I think it's probably the most valuable thing in our lives is time. It's not money, it's not your skill set, it's the time you have, and the time you have left on this, in this incredible world. And I think it's just so important that we value that time and get to spend it how we want to spend it, and not be dictated on how we spend our time. So it's a bit like, we talk about a life by design. Well, when you become really conscious of where you're spending your time, you can then sort of design the life to suit yourself. So yeah.
It is funny how your perspective of time changes as you grow, as a person, and as your role changes. Like I know for my husband, who is a carpenter, was a carpenter, he hasn't worked as a carpenter for a couple of years now, but he, when we started our agency, was very attached to the hourly rate. And it took quite a lot of, mental like shift to move to, no, we a value-based business, not yet. That might have only taken you 3 hours, but we're going to charge X because the value is this, and think about all of the time you've spent to be able to do that in 3 hours rather than 30 hours, and all of that. And that was a real big shift for him as we grew the business. But not only that, when you become a parent, I think your perspective of time really changes, because you literally see it moving behind, like before your very eyes. Like you would be able to see, oh, that's, and measure in height, like, oh, that's 3.5 years, like right there, like that's what that is. And and for me at the moment with a newborn, time's kind of just warped, because it's this never ending kind of cycle of, being up, and work's all over the place. Like I'll be working at 5 a.m. and then I'll be working at 10, depending on when I'm feeding or what I'm doing. And so your time is so, I don't even know the right word for it, but it's just changes. So I love that you are bringing this to people's attention, because I think sometimes too, we can get really stuck in the day-to-day and just, okay, we're waking up, we're doing breakfast, we're doing working, and it just flies, like, and without conscious thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think it's really important to hone in on what you just said, like that conscious thought of where am I spending my time. I used to sort of think, oh my gosh, I just wasted so much time doing this, or wasted so much time doing that, without sort of thinking, well, hang on, there were lessons learned and value in that as well. So in my chapter, I talk about how, like going back to 2005, I thought I had everything heading in the right direction. I had a great job. I was, sort of flying. I flew off to New York for work. I thought it was fabulous, sort of corporate lawyer. And then a series of events happened that were quite tragic, or very tragic in my life. And so in summary, I was raped. I then I fell apart partly after that, and then I was caught in the London bombing. I was sort of a train away, so if you can imagine the subway, I used to catch the Central Line, it's called, into town every day, and I was one train away from the one that was bombed. So we were sort of stuck underground for hours and hours, and that happened. And when I finally got into work, I was working in a tower which is called Tower 52, and it was one of the tallest buildings in London, and it had been built to be bomb-proof. And so people were sort of saying, okay, we're in the safest place in London. This is okay, as news became sort of spreading around about what was going on. But then after a while, people were like, well, maybe we're not in the safest place in actual fact, because it could be, a challenge, right? To bomb this building again. So then everyone sort of evacuated the building. Then we went to Starbucks, and then suddenly it was like, well, Starbucks is a US company. Are we even safe here? So there was no place that felt safe during that period. And after having such a personal event happen to me, and then such a public global tragedy happen, I literally just sort of fell apart from there. So my mind fell apart. I was hospitalized, and my mum actually flew out from Australia to help me get back on my feet. I had no job, sort of. I was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. But it took me a long time to sort of get things happening again in life. And part of that was just putting the jigsaw of my brain back together again, and taking sort of one step at a time, and then sort of getting back to a situation where I could feel confident about myself. Now, after that happened, and after I'd had this sort of big break from work, a lot of the young lawyers that I'd been working with sort of looked over at me and were like, oh, that's career suicide, to take 6 months off from your career. And really, it was, in hindsight, it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. It's actually become my sort of superpower, because from that time, I became incredibly, incredibly self-aware and aware of my own mental health. And that has only helped me grow and develop into a person who's very strong mentally. So I think, sometimes we think these tragedies or these things happen to us, and we saw it sort of fall flat on our face. But if we can find the value in that experience, move forward, and grow from it, I think it's not time wasted. That time away from work was a healing process, and it certainly wasn't career suicide. I came close to a different kind of suicide, and I moved through that. So that's sort of what I reveal in the book. It was a long time coming, because I really didn't disclose the fact that I have a mental illness, and until this last year. I think in the legal industry, it's never been something that's been praised or encouraged. Certainly not encouraged. I guess there's a bit of a fear that, and a stigma attached to mental illness. Even now, it's becoming far less so. It's much more open to the fact that many lawyers unfortunately suffer from depression and bipolar and other mental illnesses. So I think it's amazing that we've come such a long way. There is still definitely stigma. I don't think I would be as public as I am about it if I was working for a law firm, because I'm working for myself. I have a newfound freedom. But yeah, I think part of my chapter was really just to inspire other women that, we can feel like, we're on top of the world, but really, our value doesn't come from how much money we might be earning in a corporate job, or, whether we're the perfect mother, or whether we're, doing everything right. It really is intrinsic to us. And I think we need to value our time and our health more than anything else. And perhaps last year's sent a bit of a message to us all that those are the things that are important, and not the extraneous things. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Davina, because you're right. It is still stigmatized a lot. And so really thank you for sharing your story to help to break that down more, because that's what it takes to take the stigma away, is for people to share their own stories, and then in doing that inspire others to share and inspire others in what they can see in your story. So yeah, so thank you so much for doing that from all of us. And how can you speak to what that looks like for you now? So you said that taking that break really was beneficial to your recovery and to the strength that you've found since then. And what does that look like now? How does that experience of stepping back and being mindful of your time influence your kind of day-to-day life now?
Yeah. So I think because I saw time differently, and because I was also able to step away at other points in my career and have sort of a year traveling and working overseas, and I've taken time out working for pro bono organizations and things like that, I was able to, I think it gives you a much more holistic perspective of the opportunities and possibilities that are out there. Sometimes we can get very narrow-minded, sort of think that we have to stay in one job, or we have to do things a certain way. I think through my sort of wide background and experience, I'm able to bring that to the table, and when new ideas come up, I can embrace them without the fear that maybe I might be doing things that not the right way. I mean, the law really is very grey, and it's not all, even though things may have been done the same way. So every law firm has always had the billable hour, like you said, and they always bill by time. I think it's becoming more and more clear now that there are certainly other ways to work. We can certainly offer fixed costs, and like you said, value-based services, as opposed to any sort of ongoing time recording. And it's better for us, like as lawyers. I mean, it really means that you can do good work, and you're not sort of you're judging your work on quality as opposed to quantity, which I think time is a quantitative value. So but at the end of the day, often it doesn't matter whether you're spending 10 hours or sort of 7 hours on something. If you've done a quality job, 7 hours can be sufficient. So I think that's important. It's also like with the rapidly changing sort of tech environment we find ourselves in, I think it's really good to have an open mind and start exploring sort of new ways of working. I'm really trying to do law differently and open myself up to new ways of working, and it's only proven beneficial for my business. So I really try to listen to clients and take their thoughts and ideas on board, because that informs me as to the kind of direction that I can go in future. And there's a lot of cool sort of tech stuff happening as well, like with AI in contract reviews and of course chatbots in document management and document creation. So these areas are just going to be more and more developed in the next few years, and there's other innovations going on as well. Like I know of a woman, I think she's at the University of Western Australia, who started creating contracts for immigrants from different languages, and it's very much like almost a picture-based contract. Now, it's about sort of expanding your mind as to what's possible, and not trying to limit it to, oh, this is the way we've always done things, so this is how they need to be done into the future. Well, why? Why have you always done it that way? Why does it need to continue to be? It's about questioning, the way we work every single step of the way. And I think it's really important. Like, of course, I've developed my own niche too. That's been very beneficial. Mm-hmm. So many lawyers, particularly suburban general practices, will cover a lot of different areas of law, family, criminal, conveyancing, wills, everything. But by really focusing just on business and just on serving mums, I've sort of honed into one sort of client who I'm able to serve really, really well. And it makes my job easier. And I think my clients appreciate that offering too. So yes, that's where the sort of value your time comes into it too. You can't really spread yourself too thin over too many areas.
Yeah, so true. And it is a great way to leverage your time, because by niching, although it can be really scary to be like, oh, but I could help all of these other people and I'm saying goodbye to money. But by niching, we speak clearer to that specific person, and so it resonates. And so you will have people coming to you because they are that person needing that thing. And like in that agency, the agency is all for trades, construction. And so we don't need to advertise, because there's not that many marketing agencies that only focus on trades and construction. And so we find that even though we advertised in the very beginning, but because that's what we do, people who want that come to us. And I'm sure that you find the same thing. And I'm sure that everyone who's listening who has got that really specific niche, who solves a specific problem for a specific person, is finding that. And you're so right in that it's then easier as the service provider, because you're really good at what you do, and then you get really great results. And so then you get referrals because you get really great results. And it's just this beautiful circle where you're doing the thing that you love with the people you love to serve. And it's this beautiful circle that does help to then make sure that you're not wasting time to, stretch your skills to meet a certain scope that you want to be able to help. That it's just kind of, you say yes to $10,000, but you could have made $100,000 in that time because of the amount of, stress that you took to go and do that thing. So I love that you've touched on all of those points. How does this time well spent for you now relate to balance as a mum and as a business owner as well?
Yeah. So I'm very conscious of sort of planning out my weeks. So, there are certain things as a business owner you need to do every week, that you need to do daily, that you need to do monthly, that you need to do quarterly. So it's just about designing the calendar to fit exactly what I need and what's priority. So, for example, I get quite obsessive about my business. So if I jump into my business first thing in the morning, it's actually not a good thing for me, because I won't exercise and I won't indulge in some creative writing and that sort of thing. So I actually set those really beautiful and kind of soul enriching tasks for the first hour or two of my day. And after they're done, then, I get stuck into the business. And I think I'm at the point now where I'm confident that business is flowing in, that I don't sort of get touchy at the beginning of the day that I could be doing something on the business. So that, I think that's the secret, sort of put your self-care and your self-time in your diary first, because your business is never going to run without you looking after yourself. And I think when you've got a newborn, it's so difficult. Because
I work out
where
this
do you
morning.
put that
Oh my goodness.
time, you know?
Honestly, my workout was like 3 batches of 5 minutes this morning. I was like, okay, I give up. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I got 15
Yeah.
minutes in, broken up, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
But thank goodness, like, you've been there before, so you know that this is for a short period of time and it will pass. And there'll be a time when there's, you know, a village helping, and, you know, you'll have daycare and a bit more time to spend on it. But yeah, it's so not easy. And like we were saying earlier, if a child gets sick, or if you get sick, like, what do you do? I don't know. It just makes things really difficult if you don't have family or a really strong support network. So mums have it tough, like really tough. And often, you know, we bear, of course, the mental load of organising all the kids, but also the sort of you know, if your kid needs picking up from school, it tends to be mums who are going to be picking up the sick child. So, yeah, I think it's so important that from a domestic sense, we sort of stand up for ourselves and create some boundaries and make sure our partners, be it female or male, are, you know, coming to the table with their contributions domestically and with the mental load, so that we can live really fulfilling lives too, as we should in 2021. You know, I think once we can really set boundaries for ourselves and respect that relationship with our partners can be stronger. And then I also have a strong belief that, you know, everything sort of starts in the home. So if you can get that dynamic right, then things like, you know, gender parity and gender equality are a result of that. So, you know, you really have to be taking power into your own hands and exercising that. I think that's, yeah, really important.
Yeah, so funny you should say that, because it's happening in our house at the moment. I've got a 5.5-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And the other day he pushed past his sister to get up the stairs, like pushed her to the side, and because I'd said, get up, like, let's go upstairs quickly.
Yeah.
You said quickly, mum. And then so we started this conversation of, you know, being a gentleman, and like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the mum of a boy. Okay. But we hadn't we had had those conversations before.
Yeah.
About, you know, look at dad and what he does. And because my husband's very, very hands-on.
Yeah.
He last year spent more time with the kids than I did, because I was working and he was, you know, here. And so, yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because I'm in it at the moment, trying to navigate my way through how do we talk about this? How do we teach a boy? How do I? And it was so cute this morning. He's like, I let Avara first because I'm a gentleman, mum. Good boy. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. You want them to be very respectful of women, but you also want, you know, your girls to be respectful of the men too. I think it really works both ways. And I think you're navigating a dynamic every single day when you've got a girl and a boy. Having just the one, I don't see that dynamic. It's a bit lacking from our house, because I just have the one boy, so I don't really know, but obviously he's gonna have a lot of respect for women.
Yes.
I'm gonna make sure that
it just wasn't something I'd thought about. Like, you know, you're so busy in the day-to-day going, like, getting you fed, and you're kind, like, you know, total equality, and not even looking at the gender differences until all of a sudden you're like, oh, hang on, we're gonna have to have this conversation. And
and it starts early. I mean, we need to talk about body boundaries and things like that really early on, so that our boys are aware of these issues, because now we're responsible as mothers. I mean, sorry to shoulder every mum with more responsibility, but we want our boys to be growing up to be really respectful and mindful of women, and to acknowledge that women's rights are human rights. And in order for them to value women, we need to value ourselves and our contribution to the family, and set boundaries quite clearly, with our partners. And it doesn't matter whether you're a stay-at-home mum and not making any money. You have power within you and within your household, and you need to claim that and acknowledge that, and help your boys grow into really, really strong, beautiful men that are so respectful of all of humanity and all of us. I
so
think
funny to be thinking about
it's
with my little boy.
raising boys.
Yeah.
Big job.
Yeah. So I so agree with everything that you said. And I love that you've said, we as women need to claim our boundaries within the home, regardless of our work situation. And I think that too comes back to really being mindful of time and not putting off what we want for ourselves in, I know a lot of women who, kind of switch off that aspect of themselves for 10 years to just be mum, or they what they want seems so far away from what they're currently living that there's they procrastinate, and they're like, oh, one day. What would you say to that woman?
I think it's not easy, but there are ways to move forward with your dreams, even with the smallest amounts of time. So my mum's really good. She was an incredible teacher. She's retired now, but she was very big on daily practice. It's the music, the music practice that I used to have to do. But it's a really good lesson, if you want to improve at anything, if your dream is to write books, to write children's books, if your dream is to run an e-commerce store, whatever it may be, just set aside 1/2 hour. If you can't do that, 20 minutes, that every single day, make it a daily practice. And then before you know it, you'll be like, wow, this setting up an e-commerce store, that seems like I could do that. That's great. I can do that. Or, my writing's improving, and I've just all I've devoted was 20 minutes a day. And now, the ideas are flowing and da-da-da. So I think it's just about setting aside consistent time every single day towards those dreams and goals, and also prioritizing, obviously. So, what's your biggest goal for yourself? What would, waking up in 10 years time, I don't know, maybe you're 20, maybe you wake up when you're 30, like what is going to give you this huge satisfaction? What's the biggest dream you have, and how can you work towards that just in a little way? So
It's 3:00.
Because we can do a lot in 10 years. We can do a huge amount in 10 years. I think we often think, oh my God, I have to do this business in 1 year, or I have to, make sure it's successful in 1 year, or I have to make sure, I write this book in. But what if we give ourselves 10 years? Like, that's a huge amount of time and we can achieve huge things in 10 years. So that's a good amount of time to look forward, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I think that's a really good answer, because that 20 minutes a day could be, reading a book about it. It doesn't mean you have to go and dive in now. It's just a small step in that direction. And I think that too gives us motivation and excitement, and it's building. And then you will look back in 3 months and be like, even though I haven't, it's 20 minutes a day, but look where I am compared to where I was, and getting ready to make the leap, even if you're not ready to make the leap.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for a lot of people, they want to sort of, start a business but don't want to leave their job. So, okay, well, just put aside half an hour of your lunch break or something, at least then you don't have the kids, you don't have the work, and okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn? Okay, I need to learn financials. All right, I don't really want to learn financials. Well, you better. Or I need to learn something about marketing, or I need to just delve into some Australian consumer law issues, or read the ACCC website, or whatever it may be. Get started. I think it's really easy to procrastinate and to put things off, but then what are you waiting for, really? Unfortunately, time just keeps moving on. It's the one thing that will not stop for you. It just won't. You'll wake up and 10 years is going to come, whether you like it or not, whether you think you're too old now to start or not. I mean, that's another mindset shift we have to get around. I think it's really sad when I hear people say, oh, I'd love to do this, but I'm too old to, I'd love to go back and study this, but I'm too old. And then I think, if you're too old and you're 30, where does that leave the rest of it? And then you see these incredible 70-year-old women going back to university and doing, arts or something they always dreamed of. And that is inspiring. Or, the people that I met when I was climbing around the world who might have been 65 and it was their dream their whole life to climb this mountain, and then they were finally doing it. That's magic. So I think I wrote in the book about the fact that I realized that I had stopped procrastinating when I was lying in bed with Lucas, reading him a book, one of the Dr. Seuss books, about, and he talks about the waiting game or the waiting room, and he talks about how everyone's just waiting for a train to go, waiting for a bus to come, waiting for Friday night, waiting for the next promotion, whatever it may be, right? We're all just waiting, right? And I think when you finally take the plunge and start the business, or grow your business to the next level, or whatever it may be, or do that thing that you think, oh, that's the hard thing, I'm putting it off. Once you do it, you're beyond the waiting room, you're beyond the place, and that's where it starts happening. And I think that night, lying in bed with him, I was like, I've moved beyond the waiting place. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not waiting till I get a house, or till I have a child, or till I have to do something. I've started my business, I'm loving it, this is good. Stop waiting.
How can, for those people who might be in that place or might be looking for a new direction, or how can they be proactive, and what should they be looking at in terms of planning? Where would you direct people to look first?
For planning to start a business, is that what you're thinking?
Either start a business or for growth in their business. What are the steps that people need to look at if they're looking for a change in either starting or growing or evolving their business? I guess that's too broad, isn't it?
That's okay. I think I can go from there. So, I guess when you're starting out and you really want to be getting some good sort of mentors. I think mentors are amazing. So either a business coach or someone, they'll just help you perhaps refine your offer, and really just nailing sometimes on really, really simple things. I mean, I remember a coach once said to me, Davina, no one's going to email you because you're Davina at the Mumpreneur Lawyer, and no one can spell mumpreneur. I was like, oh, yeah. So she said, just simplify your email address. I thought, yeah, yeah, that's gold. So sometimes it'll be something really simple, but will have a knock-on effect for years going forward, because people now just remember, oh, mum lawyer. They don't think the mumpreneur lawyer or anything. They just think mum lawyer, and they can Google that and then find me. So it's really, really effective. Yeah, so it's really good to have someone in your corner, be it a coach or mentor. There's a lot of free government training as well. As BAS, I think it is something you should have a look at. You may be eligible to get some coaching there. There are amazing business schools like the Women's Business School run by Peace Mitchell and Katie Garner. There are plenty of schools and mentoring opportunities around. Rare Birds is another one. They're fabulous. I think that's Janine Ellis heads up that, so the franchise of Boost. Yeah, so there's plenty of opportunities for education and free education if you can't even, but sometimes it's actually worth putting your money down, because sometimes when you put your money down, you're more committed and you're more inclined to implement the lessons you learn. So just be wary of free coaching or tutoring. Of course, you need professionals. A lawyer in your corner, an accountant in your corner is amazing. And yeah, marketing, oh my gosh, if you can at least understand the marketing basics and then start outsourcing your marketing to people like Annalise and agencies like that, it's awesome, because without marketing, you're not going to get the word out there of your incredible product or service, and no one's going to know about you. So I think you absolutely need to sort of have your professionals, your lawyer, accountant, your marketing expert, and your mentor, and that's a really nice sort of foundation.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think figuring out where your gaps are between where you are and where you want to be, and filling those first, getting those people around you. A lot of us don't do that. I think on the journey to figuring out whether it's going to be right for us or not, but it's a really important, I mean, looking back, I think it's a really important first step to get those people on board straight away. Like, I know with legal and finance, I tried to ignore it for as long as possible, and then we were already in the flow of things. I know it doesn't go away, and it's just important to get that foundation sorted. So awesome. Thank you so much, Davina, for joining us today. It's been a really incredible conversation, I think, from all perspectives, really inspiring, really some proactive tips. And thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your story, and how that can, the lessons that you've learned throughout your life so far. And thank you for sharing it in your book and on the podcast today.
Yeah, no, it's been such a pleasure, Annalise. The book is called Back Yourself, and if you jump onto my website, mumlawyer.com.au, you can purchase it via there, and I'll send you a personalised signed copy if that's what you'd like, or gift it to a friend who wants to start a business. That's a really nice gift. It's been such a pleasure, Annalise. It's just delightful talking to you, and thank you so much for letting me be on the show.
Thank you so much, Davina. You did all of that for me. I didn't have to ask you where to find you. So is your website the best place, or can people come and hunt you on socials as well?
Oh yeah, I do like Instagram, so jump onto Insta if you want to have a little look. There's legal tips there too, so I try to make them in digestible form, because no one really likes looking at long videos anymore. Insta's probably the best.
Perfect. hop on over to Instagram, find Davina there. What's your handle there?
Mum_lawyer.
Mum_lawyer. Perfect. And honestly, if you do need a lawyer, go to the website. Davina makes it easy. Like, it wasn't hard work. It seems like it could be really hard work, but Davina somehow has simplified everything. So I highly recommend you check it out if you need that aspect in your business. All right. Thank you. Thank you again, Davina. Thanks everyone for tuning in today, and we'll catch you next time.
Amazing. Thanks, Annalise. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Impact Business Show. 2 things you should know before you go. First, come and join the party. I'm live with free marketing training in the Social Marketing Method Facebook group every single week. That's where you can ask questions and get the answers you need to simplify your strategy and amplify your income. Go to annalisewarn.com/group to join and come and network with an incredible community of like-minded business owners. Now, second, if you have got any value from this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe, and share it out on your socials. Your support helps us reach more purpose-driven entrepreneurs and increase our impact in the world. Thank you, and I will see you next week. Bye.